People think the hardest part about living in Alaska is the cold. They're wrong. The hardest part is the darkness. During winter, the sun barely shows itself. Days blur into nights until you forget what morning feels like. After losing my construction job, I was desperate enough to take anything that paid. That's how I ended up working the night shift at the Costco outside Fairbanks. The pay was incredible, almost twice what I'd earned before. Full benefits, free meals during overnight shifts. The only catch was that the shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m. after the morning crew arrived. The hiring process was strangely fast. The manager, a tired-looking man named Robert, barely glanced at my resume. "You've worked security before?" "For a warehouse. About 2 years." "Good." He nodded once, then slid a contract toward me. "No questions?" I shrugged. "I need the job." He stared at me for several seconds before speaking. "You'll understand why we're hiring so quickly after tonight." I laughed. He didn't. At exactly 9:45 p.m. I arrived for my first shift. The parking lot was nearly empty. Only 6 cars sat beneath the dim yellow lights. Snow drifted silently across the asphalt. The giant Costco building looked enormous against the black Alaskan sky. There were no city lights nearby, just endless darkness. Inside, Robert greeted me with a forced smile. "You'll be working alone after midnight." "Alone?" "The cleaning crew leaves. Stockers finish early. Cameras cover most of the building." "Most?" He ignored the question. Instead, he handed me a sealed envelope. "Don't open this until exactly midnight." I frowned. "What's inside?" "The rules." I laughed again. He still wasn't joking. The first 2 hours passed normally. I walked the aisles, checked emergency exits, made sure no customers had somehow been locked inside. Nothing unusual. The building felt peaceful. Rows of televisions reflected blue light. Towering shelves stretched toward the ceiling. Everything smelled faintly of cardboard and detergent. At 11:55, every employee walked toward the exit. Not one of them said goodbye. Most avoided looking at me. The last stalker whispered something as he passed. "Don't break Rule 7." "What?" He hurried outside before I could ask again. The automatic doors locked behind him. Suddenly, the warehouse became completely silent. Too silent. I checked my watch. Midnight. Exactly. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Across the top, someone had written in neat black handwriting, "Night shift rules. Read carefully. Questions cannot help you anymore." A nervous laugh escaped me. Someone clearly enjoyed practical jokes. Then I began reading. Rule 1. Never whistle inside the warehouse after midnight. If you hear someone whistling, stop moving immediately. Do not answer. Wait until the sound disappears. Rule 2. If aisle 14 appears longer than usual, do not enter it. Walk away. It isn't part of the building anymore. Rule 3. At exactly 1:13 a.m., all televisions will briefly turn on. Never look directly at the screens. They aren't showing our world. Rule 4. If you hear your name spoken over the intercom, ignore it, even if it sounds like someone you love, especially then. Rule 5. Should you find shopping carts moving on their own, pretend you don't see them. They dislike being acknowledged. I sighed. Someone had spent way too much time writing creepy nonsense. Still, the handwriting looked old. Not printed, written by hand. Different ink colors appeared throughout the page, as if different people had added to it over the years. That bothered me more than I expected. I folded the paper and continued my patrol. At exactly 12:17, I heard it. A whistle. Soft, slow, 3 notes, echoing somewhere behind the food court. I froze, probably the air vents. Then it came again. Closer, 3 perfect notes. I remembered Rule 1. Against my better judgment, I stopped walking. The whistle continued circling the warehouse, not getting louder, not getting quieter, just moving. After nearly 30 seconds, it stopped. Nothing happened. I laughed nervously. "See? Just pipes." My own voice sounded strangely loud. Then, a shopping cart rolled across the main aisle by itself. No one pushed it. Its wheels squeaked softly as it disappeared around a corner. I stared, then remembered Rule 5. Pretend you don't see them. I looked away. My heartbeat sped up, probably uneven flooring. Even I didn't believe that. By 12:45, I was stocking bottled water near the grocery section. That's when every freezer door slammed shut. Boom, boom, boom. The sound echoed through the warehouse. I nearly dropped the box. Seconds later, everything became quiet again. No alarms, no damage, nothing. I radioed Robert. Static. I tried again. Only static. At 1:12, I checked my watch. 1 minute until Rule 3. Curiosity got the better of me. Surely, nothing would happen. At exactly 1:13, every television and electronics turned on at once, hundreds of screens, perfectly synchronized. The warehouse filled with cold blue light. I remembered the rule. Don't look. So naturally, I looked, at first static. Then, a snowy parking lot. The Costco parking lot. Except, the building looked abandoned. Broken windows, collapsed roof, snow buried everything. A man stood alone near the entrance. His back faced the cameras. He wore the exact same uniform I was wearing. Slowly, painfully slowly, he began turning around. Before I could see his face, every television shut off. Darkness returned. My hands were shaking. Coincidence. Some hidden promotional video. It had to be, didn't it? Around 2 a.m., I found Rule 6, not on the paper, scratched into the wall beside the employee restroom. Don't trust the rules. The words looked carved by a knife. Fresh, deep, below it. Someone had written another sentence. They're trying to keep IT asleep. A chill crawled down my spine. Who was they? Who was it? At 2:19, the intercom crackled. Static hissed overhead. Then a woman's voice, soft, gentle. Daniel, my stomach dropped. That was my mother's voice. She died 3 years earlier. Honey, I couldn't breathe. Come to the loading dock. Every instinct screamed at me to answer. Instead, I remembered Rule 4. Ignore it. Tears filled my eyes. The voice sounded so real, so warm, exactly as I remembered. Daniel, please. Silence. The intercom clicked off. I stood there for nearly 5 minutes before forcing myself to move. At 2:40, I finally reached the bottom of the page. The remaining rules were somehow worse. Rule 7. If someone wearing a Costco uniform waves at you from the top shelves, do not wave back. There are no overnight workers on the shelves. Rule 8. Never count more than 12 mannequins. If you find 13, leave immediately. Do not tell anyone where you saw it. Rule 9. Should you hear knocking from inside the walk-in freezer, walk away. Employees are forbidden from entering after 2:30 a.m. Rule 10. If the lights flicker 3 times, close your eyes. It hates eye contact. Rule 11. Should another security guard introduce himself, ask him what today's date is. If he answers correctly, run. Rule 12. If the northern lights become visible through the skylights, hide. They should never be visible from inside. Rule 13. At exactly 3:33 a.m., someone will ask to come inside. No matter who it is, do not unlock the front doors. They already know your name. I checked my watch. 3:01. Only 32 minutes remained. Then I heard footsteps above me, heavy, slow. Metal shelves groaned. I looked upward. Someone stood on the highest rack nearly 30 feet above the floor. A Costco employee. Red vest, name tag, smiling. He raised one hand and waved. Rule 7. Don't wave back. I lowered my eyes and walked away. Behind me, I heard laughter. Not loud, not human. The warehouse lights flickered once, twice, 3 times. Rule 10. I shut my eyes immediately, and something walked past me, close enough that icy air brushed my face. Its footsteps didn't sound like feet. They sounded wet. When the light stabilized, the footsteps vanished. I opened my eyes. The floor beside me was covered in long black footprints. Not shoe prints, bare footprints, each one nearly twice the size of a human foot, leading toward aisle 14. My radio suddenly came alive. Robert's voice whispered through heavy static. Daniel, you still alive? Yeah. Long silence. Then he spoke again. Whatever happens, don't go near aisle 14. Too late. I looked up. The aisle sign hung only 20 feet away. Except it hadn't been there a second ago. I was certain. Slowly, the aisle stretched into impossible darkness. The shelves seemed to continue forever. No lights, no products, just endless black. And from somewhere deep inside, a child laughed. Then, something whispered my name, Daniel. The voice wasn't behind me. It wasn't ahead of me. It came from inside aisle 14 itself. And before I could force my feet to move, a pale hand slowly wrapped itself around the edge of the shelf, as if something had been waiting in that impossible darkness, watching me the entire time. The pale hand didn't belong to anyone I could recognize. It was too long. The fingers were impossibly thin, each ending in black, cracked nails that scraped softly against the steel shelf. The skin wasn't just pale, it looked drained of life, almost translucent, as if it had spent centuries beneath frozen water. I couldn't move. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to listen. Then the thing slowly leaned its head around the corner. At first, all I saw was dark hair hanging over its face. Then one eye. It wasn't white, it wasn't black, it was completely empty, like a hole cut through reality itself. A smile stretched across its face, too wide, far wider than a human mouth should ever be. Then it whispered, "You looked." The lights exploded. Every bulb in the warehouse burst at once. Glass rained onto the floor. Darkness swallowed everything. For 2 terrifying seconds, I couldn't see a thing. Then the emergency lights flickered on, bathing the Costco in a dim red glow. Aisle 14 was gone. The shelves stood exactly where they had always been. No endless darkness, no pale creature, no hand. Only ordinary pallets of cereal and canned soup. I stood there shaking. Had I imagined it? No. Deep scratches still ran across the metal shelf where those claws had gripped it. At 3:18 a.m., my radio crackled again. Robert's voice sounded weaker this time. "Daniel, listen carefully. They've noticed you." "What are you talking about?" I whispered. "You broke Rule 3. My blood turned cold. "The televisions. You looked. How do you know?" No answer. Only static. Then another voice came over the radio. A woman's voice. Not my mother's this time. It sounded much older. "Don't trust Robert." The radio died. I decided I'd had enough. No job was worth this. I grabbed my coat and headed toward the front entrance. The door stood only 50 feet away. Freedom. I reached the control panel and entered the security code Robert had given me. Nothing happened. I tried again. Access denied. I frowned. Wrong code? Impossible. Then another message appeared on the screen. Exit available at 7 a.m. My stomach tightened. I tried the emergency release. Locked. I pulled as hard as I could. The doors didn't move an inch. I was trapped. The warehouse suddenly became noisy. Not loud. Busy. Shopping carts squeaked across the floor. Children laughed somewhere in the grocery section. Cash registers beeped. People talked quietly. The sound was exactly what Costco would normally sound like during the day. Except the building was empty. I slowly turned around. Rows of checkout lanes stretched into the darkness. Every register sat empty. Yet the sounds continued. Someone coughed. A baby cried. Coins clinked. Thousands of invisible shoppers seemed to fill the warehouse. I couldn't see a single one. Then I remembered Rule 5. Pretend you don't see the carts. A shopping cart rolled past me. Then another. Then 10 more. They moved in perfect lines through the warehouse as though invisible customers pushed them. Several carts stopped beside me. Waiting. One slowly turned toward me. Its front wheels twisted until it faced me directly. The cart gently bumped my leg. Once, twice, as if asking me to follow. I stepped backward. The carts remained still. Watching. Finally, they rolled away together into the darkness. At exactly 3:33 a.m., 3 loud knocks echoed through the front entrance. Bang! Bang! I froze. Rule 13. Someone will ask to come inside. The knocking came again, this time accompanied by a man's voice. "Security? Hello? I think my wife is still inside." The voice sounded terrified. I cautiously approached the doors. Outside stood a middle-aged man wearing a heavy winter coat. Snow covered his shoulders. He looked completely normal. He banged on the glass again. "Please. My wife came shopping before closing. She's not answering her phone." I remembered the rule. Do not unlock the doors. The man looked directly into my eyes. "Daniel." Every hair on my arm stood up. I had never met him before. "Daniel, please let me in. You know me." "No." I didn't. His smile widened. Too wide. The same smile the thing in aisle 14 had worn. I stepped backward. His expression instantly changed. His face twisted with rage. He slammed both fists against the glass. The entire entrance shook. Cracks spread across the doors. Then he stopped. He slowly leaned close enough for his breath to fog the glass. "I'll see you tomorrow night." He walked into the darkness. Seconds later, he disappeared. I barely had time to recover before every light inside the warehouse dimmed. Then came the announcement. "Attention Costco employees." The intercom crackled. "The store is now open." I stared at my watch. 3:39 a.m. Open? That made no sense. Then footsteps echoed through the entrance. Dozens of them. I looked toward the front. People were walking through the locked doors, not opening them. Walking through them. Men, women, children, entire families, all dressed in winter clothing from different decades. Some looked like they belonged in the 1950s. Others wore clothes from the 1980s. None of them acknowledged me. Each silently grabbed a shopping cart and disappeared into the aisles. Their eyes were empty, no pupils, only pale gray. Within minutes, the warehouse looked full. Hundreds of silent shoppers wandered beneath the red emergency lights. No one spoke, no one blinked, no one breathed. I stood completely still as one elderly woman stopped inches from me. She looked directly into my face, then smiled. "You must be new." She continued walking. My radio suddenly screamed with static. Robert shouted over the noise, "Hide! They're not customers. They're the ones who never left." Before I could ask what he meant, the shoppers stopped moving. Every single one. Hundreds of heads slowly turned toward me. All at once. No one spoke. No one blinked. Then every single person smiled. I ran. I sprinted toward the warehouse shelves. Behind me came hundreds of footsteps. Not running, walking, steady, patient. They knew they didn't have to hurry. I knocked over a display of paper towels behind me. The rolls scattered everywhere. The footsteps never changed pace. I ducked into electronics and hid beneath the display table. The footsteps entered seconds later. One pair, then another, then dozens. Shoes surrounded my hiding place. Old boots, children's sneakers, high heels, bare feet. Someone whispered, "He's here." Another voice answered, "He broke the rules." Cold fingers brushed the edge of the tablecloth hanging beside me. I held my breath. For nearly a minute, nothing happened. Then a child giggled. Not yet. The footsteps slowly moved away. When the warehouse became quiet again, I crawled out. Only one shopper remained. A little girl stood beside a television. She couldn't have been older than 8. She wore an old blue winter coat and held a stuffed polar bear. Unlike the others, she had normal eyes. She looked frightened. "You shouldn't stay here," she whispered. "Who are you?" "My name is Emily." "Where are your parents?" She pointed upward. I followed her finger. High above the warehouse, something enormous crawled across the ceiling. At first I thought it was a shadow. Then it moved. Its body stretched the entire length of the warehouse. Long black limbs gripped the steel beams. Its skin looked like frozen charcoal. Dozens of pale faces were trapped beneath its surface, silently screaming. Its head slowly rotated upside down until it looked directly at me. Hundreds of tiny white eyes opened across its face. Emily grabbed my sleeve. "Don't let it know you can see it." I immediately lowered my eyes. Too late. Above us, the creature stopped moving. The entire warehouse became silent. Emily's face filled with fear. "It saw you." A deafening roar shook every shelf in the building. Products crashed from the racks. The floor trembled violently. Somewhere in the darkness, hundreds of invisible shoppers began laughing. Emily stepped backward. "They're awake now." Before I could ask who they were, the emergency lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the warehouse once again, and from somewhere only a few feet away, something huge landed on the floor. Its slow, heavy breathing echoed through the darkness. Right behind me, the creature's breath was icy against the back of my neck. I didn't dare turn around. Emily's warning echoed in my mind. "Don't let it know you can see it." I closed my eyes and stood perfectly still. The massive thing circled me slowly. Every step made the concrete floor tremble. It sniffed the air as if deciding whether I belonged there or whether I was its next meal. Then, somewhere across the warehouse, a loud whistle echoed. 3 slow notes. The creature froze. Another whistle followed. Without warning, the monster leaped away into the darkness. The entire building shook as it climbed back into the ceiling beams. Emily grabbed my arm. "Come on." We ran through the dark aisles until we reached a small maintenance room hidden behind the tire center. Inside were old tools, cleaning supplies, and a faded security locker. On the wall hung dozens of employee photographs dating back nearly 40 years. Every photo had one thing in common. Each night shift security guard had disappeared. Someone had written their names beneath the pictures. Every name had a date beside it, but none had a date after 1998, except one. Daniel Carter, July 18th, my name, today's date. I hadn't been hired, I had been chosen. Emily quietly explained the truth. Years ago, before the Costco was built, something ancient had lived beneath the frozen ground. During construction, workers accidentally uncovered it. Strange accidents followed. Entire crews vanished without a trace. Eventually, the company discovered a terrifying pattern. As long as someone followed the 13 rules every night, the creature remained asleep. But every few years, it wanted a replacement. Someone had to become its new keeper, someone who knew the rules, someone who had already broken them. That's why Robert hired me so quickly. He wasn't recruiting, he was escaping. Suddenly, the radio crackled. Robert's exhausted voice whispered, "I'm sorry, Daniel. I couldn't stay another night." Before I could answer, the connection died forever. At exactly 6:45 a.m., the warehouse lights flickered back to life. The invisible shoppers disappeared. The creature above the ceiling stopped moving. Everything looked perfectly normal again. Only 15 minutes remained until sunrise. Emily smiled sadly. "You can still leave. But if you do, it will follow you." I didn't believe her until I looked toward the front entrance. Outside the glass stood the same smiling man who had knocked at 3:33. Beside him stood dozens of others. The old woman, the child, the pale employee from the shelves. They were all waiting, watching, smiling. If I walked outside, they would come with me. At exactly 7 a.m., the front doors unlocked with a loud click. Morning employees entered laughing, carrying coffee as if nothing had happened. No one noticed Emily. No one noticed the claw marks across the floor. No one noticed the strange faces watching through the windows. Robert's office was empty. His resignation letter sat neatly on the desk. No forwarding address, no explanation. Only one sentence had been written across the bottom. "The rules don't protect you. They protect everyone else." I looked around the warehouse one last time. Then I made my decision. I locked the front doors again. The morning employees stared in confusion. "I'll handle the security report," I told them. "You should all go home." Something in my voice convinced them. One by one, they left. Emily smiled for the first time. "You understand now." That night, I rewrote the list. Not to change the rules, to make them clearer. Future guards deserved at least that much. I've worked every night since then. 3 years have passed. I've learned there are more than 13 rules. Some reveal themselves only after you've survived long enough. I've never looked at the televisions again. I've never answered the intercom. And every night at exactly 3:33, someone knocks on the front doors. Sometimes it's my mother. Sometimes it's Robert.